Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. And today we're getting into another dating topic, social media behavior as micro cheating. So I've done a series of research where I had looked up 5 of the top trending topics of conversation in the world of dating from the perspective of men and from women. This is one of the ones from women, and it essentially hits at the idea of if a guy is, and I'm going to break down all the specific examples, but if a guy is playing in the realm of social media for the purpose of, maybe liking certain things or getting attention or anything of that sort, is that considered cheating? They use the term micro cheating here. So not officially cheating, but in the sense of like a soft cheating, if you want to call it that. So what it says as far as in the research is, women increasingly debate whether online behavior counts as emotional betrayal. So huge arguments happen over, these are the points: liking revealing Instagram photos, following OnlyFans creators, DMing women casually, which is like messaging for however this video ends up aging 5 years down the line, that may not be a term, Snapchat streaks, hiding phones, and watching thirst trap content, which essentially I think means similar to some kind of, provocative material that causes a person to keep engaging over and over again. It goes on to say, some women see these as harmless while others consider them disrespectful or emotionally cheating. Now, what are your thoughts? Like I said, put them down below. In regards to your thoughts on that. I do think that social media has become such a big thing now that I think this subject actually could pertain to both, because sometimes you will have, just as there are men who seek that type of stuff out, there are also women who are posting that stuff up. But this is, like I said, one of the subjects that was high on the controversial or debatable space for women, or a topic of conversation for women. And so we're looking at it from that perspective of, for men doing it. And I think that is something that really comes down to the times, and if people are wanting something more traditional or they're not wanting something more traditional. But I also think that though you can have some guys who do this stuff and it would be considered wrong, obviously no one's going to like this kind of stuff. I think another reflection too is, what is the bar or the dynamic that is set from both partners in regards to this type of behavior? Meaning, if one person's doing it, then by all means they can argue that the other person can argue that it's not right, they don't like it, or whatever the case is. It's another thing if the bar that is set for interacting with social media, meaning both of them have Facebook pages with a lot of people on them, because keep in mind, even the way that the subject and the points are broken down is of the men chasing to find something out there or to see things. And so that brings into the equation, or the question, that if the two people as partners have a level of how they expect the dynamic to be, it has to be understood that women who engage in social media to post is equally, and this is something to be understood, and some people might try to reject the idea of this, but it's not true to reject it. It's very true that this is a fact in regards to the dynamic. The differences between men and women is that a woman who posts images of herself is just as bad as a man who's seeking the images of other women. Because even though one would say, well, I'm not doing anything, I'm just being neutral, I'm just posting on myself, but I'm not actually seeking out to talk to other people, it's understood that the dynamic differences between men and women, that men do the hunting and women, generally speaking, are courted or are pursued by men. So just existing and showing yourself is the same action, equivalent action of a man actually chasing. That is 100% always going to be factual, which is why You have certain cultures, I'll say, I don't want to say religion, certain cultures that where the women cover themselves up dramatically or don't show any kind of, exposure of themselves, because it's understood that this promotes the idea of men to come seek them, whether you agree with that or not, in terms of that it should be allowed. We're not talking about that. We're just talking about the fact that it is a fact that if someone is more exposed, it does draw more men in than if they're more covered up. That's just a fact of nature. So with that being said, I think it really comes down to the dynamic of what the bar is set for both that determines what is considered okay or not okay when it comes to that dynamic. So if one is not doing it, if the woman's not doing it, then the man shouldn't be doing it. In that case, if he is, it would be considered wrong. But if the woman is posting a whole bunch of photos on social media, has hundreds of followers, essentially she is doing the same thing, which then leaves very little room to complain about the men doing it. And though their mindset might think there's a difference because the men are pursuing while the women aren't, the truth is, like I said before, those are considered the same thing when we look at the dynamic of men and women. Because if a man walks down the street, the average man walks down the street, not the supermodel. The average man walks down the street. He's not being harassed or catcalled by women, generally speaking, not the average man. Meaning if I took 10 men and they all walk down the street, what would be considered normal would be all of them getting catcalled. Even if one got catcalled more than the other, they all should get catcalled if they walk down a busy city street. Whereas you take 10 women, majority of them are gonna get catcalled, not to say each one at the same frequency, but in a busy city street, at least almost all of them will get catcalled, or someone's gonna pursue them or say something to them like, hey, how you doing? At least all of them are gonna get it once. Obviously, some are gonna get it way more than once, but all of them are gonna get it at least once. In a busy city, I'm not talking about a slow, small town where there's only one person's walking on a sidewalk at a given time because the population is that small. I'm talking about a big city, New York City, Philadelphia, Chicago, those big cities where the streets is piled with people. You take 10 men, you take 10 women, you're gonna see that difference in dynamic. That's undisputable. And with that being said, that is why the dynamic is different. The dynamic is different, in which you can't compare you can compare the existing for one versus the pursuing of the other as matching up to be the equivalent. Anyway, you guys, let me know your thoughts down below. As always, like, share, comment, subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.